and reduced lunch students. That was one Chromebook per household. So for a lot of households, that did provide them the technology that they needed to be able to access a lot of their online schooling, but a lot of households also have multiple children. So then there would be an issue potentially with scheduling Zoom meetings or Google Meet, having those at conflicting times with different students, having different requirements from teachers because schools came up with their own requirements in order for students to be able to pass or meet expectations during that time, as well as just the regular living sort of accommodations of having to balance technology in one device with multiple children. So for example, last school year I had one student who was a triplet, and he and his two sisters were in the same grade and often had meetings at the same time. So something that I did with the other math teachers at my school to accommodate that was to require the same types of activities to be completed and then do allow students to sit in on different meet sessions regardless of who their actual classroom teacher was. So there are workarounds to address that. However, it can be really challenging, and I've heard from some parents that they preferred to receive paper copies instead in order to address some of the fighting that would happen between siblings around technology. Our district also provided some help with Wi-Fi because just having the actual bandwidth to support the technology could be a barrier to access for a lot of students. So that was very helpful for them. And as I mentioned, there were some paper copy options. Those were available at food sites, so parents or family members could pick them up if they were coming to pick up food. We had a number of sites across the district that slowly sort of tapered off, and then the district was preferring mailing those out. So there are some logistical issues there, especially if families have moved or we're having issues with their own personal technology. Another key point of access is the support that students need in order to be successful. So that comes from the teachers as well as from the other adults in their life. So what I've heard kind of across the board is that parents, this is a whole nother job for parents in order to help support their students in their education. And for a lot of parents, I know a lot of them were still going into work as they were essential employees or had jobs that required them to physically be there. And then they would have to come back and check in on their students and communicate with their parents. So it has been very taxing on adults as well. And another key point of support has to do with accommodation. So our exceptional child students are ECE students who have either readers or extra time or preferred seating or behavior accommodations. It was really hard to address those during this time when we're not there in person. In order to kind of still support our ECE students, myself as well as my collaboration teacher and other teachers often set up one-on-one sessions with students so that we could help walk them through the material and see what they were doing and to provide them direct feedback. That also involved a lot of communication with parents to set up the times and that sort of thing. So all in all, I think that I have a couple of some suggestions for addressing these inequities in education during NTI. The biggest one's got to be communication though, because it is a huge time commitment. It is less time that you're actually in front of your classroom, even in this type of setting where you're in a video webinar. But there's so much time that goes into communicating with parents. So calling, emailing, texting, even posting on social media to make sure students know what's going on and how they can access things. So a lot of time, a lot of communication, and just remember that you're a team that's helping to support the students. So you are working with their parents or their grandparents or their older siblings, themselves. Another thing is just remember to meet kids where they're at. So it can be really challenging as an educator to come in and have expectations of, well, I want to make sure I address these standards and these standards before the end of the year. And yes, that is important, but realize that there are huge barriers there. And so just try to manage your expectations accordingly and ensure that you can be there to be experienced adult and to check in on them and also help them a little bit and not try to be the end-all be-all person for them. So just trying to ensure that they have access to the tools and support that they need, and that you are really a facilitator and a guide. I think that those are kind of the best ways to address some of those inequities in education during NTI. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I think I have a couple of minutes here.
I actually did have a question. One of the things you discussed was social media. Did you set up your own social media account? Did you utilize a school social media account?
Sure. So that's a good question. Our school does have a social media account. I mean, they use Facebook, but a lot of students, especially the middle schoolers and younger ones, are not really on Facebook. They tend to favor Instagram and TikTok. So I do have a teacher Instagram page, and I would post different things there in my actual posts as well as on my stories to make sure that kids could see them in 2 different ways. Some parents even follow me on social media, and they have said that they have issues getting emails from the school, so that's been helpful for them. So I would recommend having like a teacher Instagram or a TikTok. I did get a TikTok. I have not posted to it yet, though. That was mostly because my students wanted me to do some dance challenges with them. So, you know, just trying to find a way to help kids get that information and also still make it fun.
Did you already have the social media account and teacher at Instagram before?
I did.
Okay, that very smart.
Yeah, so that's something I set up, I think my 2nd year teaching, and it was kind of, you know, just a fun way to share pictures, not as students. I'm really hesitant to share things, and you'll see some and I mean, for me, it's also a way to get a lot of ideas about teaching and organization and activities, so I would really recommend a teacher Instagram. And I've actually seen some creative lessons from teacher TikTok accounts. So math lessons about like teaching opposite numbers and absolute value and things like that. So it's given me some ideas, but it's not something I've ventured into myself.
Did you learn any organizational skills? If I understood correctly, you have shifted a lot of your time just to the organizing of connecting with kids. Do you have any concrete things for our new teachers on that?
Sure, yeah. So it is a lot of pre-planning and then checking regularly to see what kids have done. So keep that in mind. I had a general structure that I followed each week, and I found that once I set that up, kids knew what to expect and what they should be completing each week. So while it sounded a little bit like a little monotonous, I think it was actually just really helpful, because there was one week I strayed from that with a choice board, and I ended up giving myself 9 different places to check for student work. So, and it was confusing to students. So sometimes like those fun ideas are actually just a learning experience. So what I would do is I would have kind of similar to my classroom structure. I would start with the warm-up, and I started on a website that allowed students to post kind of like a digital sticky note on a board, and they could see them once I approved it. And so I did include that they have to include their name. So I would start with a warm-up, then I would have a video of myself going through the actual lesson, and then I would put that in a website called, what's the name of it? Now I'm blanking because it's been a couple of weeks. But it's a website where you can embed questions within videos. So I'd have a teacher video of myself explaining the concept, and it would be maybe 7 to 10 minutes long. Pause it for questions along the way, questions for understanding. Then I would have some type of activity, either on Google Slides or, yes, Edpuzzle, that's it. Great. And so I would have some type of interactive activity that kids would be required to do. Then I would have an exit slip or like a mini quiz in Google Forms. So I had a spreadsheet set up for myself with all of my students' names, and I would check to see what they had done or put in a grade score if I was counting at 4th grade. So that was sort of my grading system. And I checked it multiple times a day. So I would say another tip would be to set boundaries for yourself, because you don't have that physical being at school and not being at school in order to help you determine when your hard stop is. So don't check emails at 10 p.m. because I've known some teachers to do that. That can be kind of a lot. Give yourself a grace period of 12 to 24 hours in order to respond. I thought there was something.
Do you have any success stories you want to share with us? Any particular, success stories with students?
Sure. Let's think. Yeah, actually I do. So one thing we did, and I think that this was kind of a challenge, was in order to continue to build community while we're still at home. And I think that was sort of our biggest concern, is to have students still feel connected to each other and their teachers. So every week when we were still in person in school, we would have a 7th period on Friday. We would do something called the Fun Friday. And it would be something like arts and crafts. And I'll address the puzzle question. Arts and crafts, or games, or movies, some sort of unwinding activity as a reward. And so we continued something like kind of similar to that on Fridays during NTI. And we would put all of our teacher classrooms together. All the students could come together, and we would play kind of like a Pictionary type game online, and just for a while we and have fun with each other. So that was really fun. A lot of my students would show up sometimes just for that during the week. But I think that one thing that we discovered during NTI is that some students who don't really thrive in the in-person classroom actually found that it worked well for them. They were able to do their schoolwork at a time that worked well for them. So, they may turn in something at 2 in the morning, and while that's not really accessible during in-person time, that was what worked for them. So I think that the schedule and maybe the technology aspect is something that some students were able to use to their benefit. One of my students who thrived during NTI is someone who really struggled in class. I think just very proactive and kind of all over the place, and would require a lot of attention and a lot of redirection and a lot of encouragement. However, during NTI, they had a lot of responsibilities at home, but they were able to complete their work and get a lot of feedback. And they actually earned my NTI Math Award. I did a couple of in-person class awards and then a couple of NTI awards, and created certificates. And we had a little video award ceremony. So that was really nice. Okay, so we have about 1 more minute left. I saw a couple questions in the chat. Let's see. Some of the school systems had teachers or administrators drop lunches and meals off at family houses. So I don't think anyone at my school did that. I think it was just specific locations to pick up food. And the school that I worked at, Westport, is a food pickup site. What I would do is I would use Screencast-O-Matic or Screencastify to create a video of myself working through different examples, and then I would upload that to YouTube and then to Edpuzzle. So it's kind of a workaround way. I wasn't able to record videos in Edpuzzle directly.
Had you done any of this before?
Oh, good question. I've done a couple of things before, like Google Form quizzes, a couple, I've showed a couple of videos in class, but I really liked how I was able to explore different websites that I think that I just didn't give that much thought to it when we were in person. I did a couple of things in Google Classroom, but this was really a chance to explore some of those different tools. And it's stuff that I would carry along, actually. My students liked the Padlet that I would use for the warm-up. They liked the Edpuzzle. So there were a lot of things that, and that was part of my exit interview, the principal asked what we would continue to do if we were to come back in person. All right, Ian, I saw your message.
All right. Hey, once again, guys, please thank Alex. She's obviously just immensely qualified to speak on this subject, and she also is doing this last minute. She's going now to close on a house. Congratulations.
I'm buying my first house, so thanks.
On that, and at that, I'm going to bring folks back to the main room. So thank you again.